Previously, on Fear the Walking Dead, the radio drama.
I killed Calvin.
You saved us. You had no other choice.
Joanna Cruz, their neighbor, stands in the yard talking to Travis, with her husband nearby. They see their next-door neighbor packing his trunk with water, fuel, and food. Peter's got the right idea. She waves at Peter, and he waves back, before coughing. Damn it. No one's answering. No Liza, no Chris. He's pushing my calls.
Okay, go. Travis, go get them. Now.
Madison pulls her car into the same parking spot as she usually does at Paul R. Williams High School. Madison finds what she's looking for. A bottle of pills.
Hey, Missy.
Tobias!
Chris and his fellow bus passengers have finally reached the site of the shooting. Behind the crime scene tape, there's a dead body lying on the ground, obscured by a sheet. We gotta find him. It's not safe. This virus that's going around, the shootings the past few days, it's connected.
You know what I've seen? Nothing.
Chris, where the hell are you? The people are taking action. This is important, Dad.
Oh, God. Artie?
Help me! Help me!
Madison takes one more look at her old friend before she begins repeatedly beating him over the head with the extinguisher. Finally, putting him down. Excuse me, sir, can we please come in?
We're closed.
In the Cruz's lawn, Peter has tackled Joanna, who's pushing him and trying to get away.
Don't look.
Get off!
Mom, Mr. Dawson's hurting her. Tell me. What's going on?
In Daniel's barbershop, very late the same night, Chris peers through the cracks in the metal garage door covering the front windows. He sees and hears the crazed destruction of the rioters, continuing with just as much vigor as before. An abandoned police car still has its lights and siren on, but it's tipped over by a handful of huge men. A police officer speaking through a megaphone is heard nearby. Suddenly, a man wanders in front of the store and stares right at Chris. The eyes he sees are heavily bloodshot and glazed over, just like those of the undead Calvin and Artie.
Whoa!
Chris is shocked and jumps away from the window. Chris! Dad! What do you see out there? Chris doesn't immediately answer, still shocked by what he saw. He looks back and forth between Travis and the window a few times. I told you to stop looking. Some guy, he was messed up, Dad. Just come away from the window. Chris considers it, but turns back to peer out at the destruction. Back at the house, Madison fills a glass of water, then retrieves 2 oxycodone pills for Nick. As she passes through the dining room, she uses the dimmer switch to turn down the lights. Though their neighborhood is more peaceful than the streets of downtown, there are still police sirens heard intermittently. As she walks toward the living room, she hears a noise out the window, across the street. She briefly stops and glances out the window, then thinks better of it and continues on. In the living room, Alicia is peering out the same window as before, and Nick is comfortably sitting on the couch. Alicia looks across the street at the Cruz's house, where the door is open after Peter chased Joanna into the house.
What was that sound? I don't know, but it's gone. What did Mr. Dawson do to the Cruzes? He's gone. Yeah, but what the hell did he do? I don't know. We're safe inside, okay?
After Madison hands Nick the pills, he places them in an ashtray and begins to crush them with the bottom of his water glass.
Oh, come on, Nick. Please, just swallow them.
Nah, it takes too long to absorb. I'm not there yet.
The idea is to wean you off the pills, not to get high.
Who's the expert? Madison just stares at him in disbelief, then gets up and walks away. Wait, Mom, I need more.
No shit. Later.
Well, how much do we have?
We have enough to get you east, don't worry.
And then?
And then you howl at the moon. Look, Travis will be here, then we'll go.
You sure?
Nick! He's coming.
Okay. As Madison walks away, she seems to have been deeply affected by Nick's doubt, and quietly says to herself,
Come back.
At the barbershop, Travis sits down beside Liza. As soon as this settles down, we move. Go back the way we came, get to the truck, and we're gone. Liza nods, then Chris, who's been pacing, comes over and stands in front of them. Are we gonna go back to Madison's after this? Yeah. Why can't we just leave? Just us.
Chris.
As they talk, the wall shakes, and a picture falls to the ground.
Damn it.
They're breaking in. They're breaking in next door.
Travis nervously peers out onto the street, and sees that the violence is only ramping up, not calming down. Well, we're safe here. They won't come in here.
How do you know?
What are they gonna steal? Combs? Police will have it sorted in an hour or two, tops.
You said that 2 hours ago.
Liza, Oh, Ofelia, can I use your phone again?
I'll get it.
Thank you. Daniel takes a seat, then looks over and notices Chris playing with one of his razors.
Hey, put that back.
Chris is annoyed, but does as he's told. The banging next door continues, and Travis returns to the barbershop proper, having failed to get through to Madison, then hands the phone back to Ofelia. Thank you. Chris suddenly looks suspiciously at the wall, then starts to feel it. Daniel approaches Travis.
There's more than combs here, you know.
I know. I was just trying to make...
Yeah, make your boy believe everything's gonna be fine.
What happens if what's out there gets in here? Dad?
We run.
Dad? Where?
In different directions.
Dad! What, Chris? The wall's getting hot. The two men put their hands on the wall too, to make sure he's right. He is.
We gotta go.
Griselda, tenemos que salir ahora.
Alright, come on. We gotta get out of here. We stay close, get to the truck.
La plata, el dinero.
Don't leave my side, Chris.
Vámonos.
Okay, conmigo, juntos. Okay, everybody together, juntos, huh?
Daniel gets to the front of the pack, then opens the door to the shop. Instantly, several rioters push into the building, and Daniel holds everyone back. When they stop coming through, the 6 of them all slip out and begin rushing down the street. Daniel lingers for a moment and watches as the rioters wreak havoc upon his shop, destroying mirrors, chairs, combs, and throwing tools everywhere. On the street, Chris also freezes as he watches a man tackle a riot policeman and start eating his neck. Dad? Dad? Chris, let's go. They rush down the street, with the Salazars trailing just behind them. A car nearby has B-sight. A man throws a Molotov cocktail at it, and it too begins lighting up the street. In front of the barber shop, the policeman is being pushed around on the ground by the man eating him. Hundreds of people line up in the streets and are pushing against the riot police line, and the riot police push back. Above them all, a rioter jumps up and down on a car, providing the rioters with the morale boost they need to finally push through the police. Anarchy consumes LA. This is Fear the Walking Dead, the radio drama. Today's episode is sourced from Season 1, Episode 3, The Dog, which was directed by Adam Davidson and written by Jack Lagudice. At home, Madison starts rooting through a closet near the living room. There, Nick seems to be sleeping on the couch, and Alicia sits nearby, reading a book. Madison finally finds what she's looking for and comes into the living room, revealing the old Monopoly box to Alicia.
Really? Yep.
The moment the box hits the table, Nick suddenly perks up.
I'm the top hat. Car.
Shoot! Alicia sets her book down and sits down beside the coffee table.
Dad was always the shoe. Dad wouldn't mind.
So, what do you want to be, the thimble?
No. I'm the car.
The car, alright. Madison smiles. Her plan is already working.
Thank you. Alright, who wants to go first?
It's youngest to oldest. I'm gonna wipe the floor with you guys, I can feel it.
This game's evil, dude. Kindergarten capitalism. Yeah.
Shut up and roll. Alicia rolls the dice, and we cut back to the streets downtown. A police truck and a fire truck slowly roll down the street as a man incomprehensibly gives orders to the rioters through a megaphone. A dozen people climb up onto a platform over the sidewalk, raised by some scaffolding, and help pull others up.
I got you. Come on
The
up.
people who couldn't get on top are jumping around nearby and banging on the scaffolding. Then we see Travis, Chris, and Liza come running up from a nearby
This
street,
way, let's go.
and Travis leads them under the scaffolding, using it to protect themselves from the crowd. The Salazars come a few seconds later, and Ofelia leads her parents through the same way. Alright, hang on. The three get to the other side just as tear gas canisters fly into the scaffolding just behind the Salazars. Daniel and Ofelia get out, but Griselda is held up by a man who is also under the scaffolding, and has to push him away to continue. Just as she gets to the end, the fire truck begins spraying the protesters on top of the scaffolding with its high-pressure hose. The people up top begin falling off, but even worse, the platform and scaffolding all begin to topple over as a unit. Griselda's unable to escape completely, and the scaffolding crushes her foot, and she's unable to move.
Mama.
Griselda!
Daniel and Ofelia rush back to help her, and Chris turns to see what happened. Dad! Oh shit.
You guys, help. Help.
She didn't even need to ask. The three all rush over to help them.
She's stuck.
Chris, Daniel, and two kind-hearted protesters lift the scaffolding up for long enough for Travis to pick up Griselda. Then the whole group runs away.
Be careful, Travis.
There's my truck. Open the tailgate and let's get her in the bed.
It's okay. It's okay. We're going into shock. Stay with me.
Travis and Chris get into the truck's cab while Liza, Daniel, and Ofelia stay in the bed to care for Griselda. Travis starts the truck and begins to drive away, but some of the rioters are not so pleased that they're leaving.
Hey, they're trying.
Travis considers taking a safer way out, but a handful of rioters are rushing toward the truck, so he backs into a couple of motorcycles, knocking them over, then floors it and flies off down the road. A few protesters chase them for a few seconds, then they return to the huge crowd, reinforcing them as another line of riot police approach. In the bed of the truck, Liza is checking out Griselda's foot.
Careful. Careful. You're hurting her.
I know. I'm sorry.
She glances up at Daniel.
Talk to her.
It's okay, my love. You will be fine.
She then takes Griselda's shoe off, revealing a bloody mess. The top of her foot was severely crushed by the scaffolding.
We need a doctor, Trav.
I'll do my best. Back home, Nick is making big plays in Monopoly. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's Boardwalk.
Oh my god.
I'd like to buy that, please.
Alright. Here's Boardwalk.
Here's $400.
Sold.
Nick then begins making it rain with his Monopoly money to pay her for Boardwalk.
Hey. Come on. Calm down. Play fair. Do not treat the banker like that.
Nick then picks up Boardwalk and his Park Place card and shows them off. Thank you very much, and that's the pair.
You always get the good ones. Look at that. I'm crushing you guys. You're pathetic.
They're silent for several seconds before Nick snaps Madison out of it. Mom.
7.
Nick looks to Alicia to take her turn, but she doesn't roll.
How long are we gonna wait? We can go to sleep soon. Yeah, I can't sleep when I'm waiting for someone to come home.
Nick glances up at her nervously, and Madison looks around the room, uncomfortable.
Having a major case of deja vu right now.
They all share a sad, silent moment before Alicia rolls the dice. Back on the road, Chris and Travis listen to the radio.
Governors in 11 states have declared a state of emergency and requested the assistance of the National Guard to quell riots and protests. The FAA is expected to ground flights.
Travis turns the radio volume down as they pass by the nearest hospital to their prior location, the Sisters of Mercy Medical Center. Outside, an abandoned ambulance is on fire. Dozens of people are being evacuated.
What the hell is going on?
Police officers with machine guns run toward the building, while an officer with a flare directs them to go on away from the hospital. As they round the corner to go around the hospital, an officer is shouting orders to a man who's emerged.
Sir, I will shoot.
Guys, get down, get down!
Abajo!
The officers spray the man with bullets until one shot to the head finally brings him down. Everyone okay? All right back there? They drive away in silence for several minutes. Liza does her best with no equipment to take care of Griselda's foot and ease her pain. What's plan B, Liza?
another hospital.
No, they will all be like that.
Is there somewhere I can drop you? I want to help.
Like I helped you?
I just saved you from... Doesn't matter. Is there somewhere I can take you?
You will take us with you.
To my house.
Yes, I'll call my cousin to come get us, and then we will be even.
You can stop keeping score.
I was not the one to start.
They stop arguing and look out over the city from afar now. The power begins to flash out in huge sections of the city at a time. Even in the blindingly bright center of the city, full of skyscrapers and extravagant hotels, the lights go off, leaving the city in perpetual darkness, with the exception of the fires raging throughout LA. Everyone looks on in amazement and terror. Dad? Travis is rendered speechless, and turns away to watch the road as the last lights left in the city switch off behind him. Back at home a while later, Madison, Nick, and Alicia have finished their game of Monopoly. Alicia sits at the dining room table reading a book and eating an apple, while Madison pulls out the tin of coffee grounds in an effort to stay awake. Nick nervously paces into the room and looks for a snack. So, what do we do if he doesn't come back? It's been like 6 hours, how bad can traffic be?
Well, he will...
She's abruptly cut off by the lights flickering off once again. Madison looks around nervously, hesitant to continue.
Alicia, will you go put the game away? I don't really wanna... You know the rules. Loser puts the game away.
Madison digs a flashlight out of one of the cabinets, and when Alicia doesn't respond, Madison shines the flashlight in her face.
Alright, I'm going.
Mom, you know what's out there. We can't stay here. I'm not trying to be an asshole.
Good.
He went to get his ex-wife.
He went to get his son.
Yeah, his family. I'm just saying.
We're his family. He'll come home.
Nick nods, then is silent for a few seconds, staring at her. Maybe he went home.
You know that thing you were saying about not being an asshole?
Hey, I'm sorry, I just don't...
It's happening again.
They both stop and look at her as she peeks into the kitchen. Then Madison grabs the flashlight and they follow her into the living room and look out the window. Across the street, the Cruz's house sits completely silent, with the door still open as it was after Peter attacked earlier that night.
Is it Mr. Dawson? Shh, shh, shh. I don't see anything.
Okay, we need to get away from the windows. Nick steps in front of them and closes the blinds, then takes Madison to the side, whispering as they walk away into the next room. You need to tell Alicia what's out there.
No, she hasn't seen anything yet. She might not have to. Alicia, come down here.
They're all struck silent when they hear a scraping noise on the sliding glass door right next to them. They stare at the curtain door for a few seconds until a louder noise comes from it. Nick slowly approaches the curtains, shining his flashlight in that direction.
Nick.
Shh. Nick stands right in front of the door now, and he seems to realize something that they don't, then reaches his hand to pull the curtain aside.
No, don't open Nick, it! Don't!
He pulls the curtain aside to reveal what was at the door. The Cruz's German Shepherd. Nick grins. His intuition was correct. It's just the dog! It's just the dog! He slides the glass door open slightly, and the dog walks in, and Nick pets him. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Hey. At that moment, they all notice the blood on his right front leg, but also all over his right side.
Is he hurt? What is that?
Nick stares at his hands, covered in the blood from the dog, but he's even more disturbed than they are. I don't think that's his blood. Suddenly, the dog rushes toward the front door and begins barking. Nick follows the dog, then looks out the window in the living room that looks out across the street toward the Cruz's house. In the street, he sees Peter staring at their house, face covered in blood as he slowly shuffles toward the front door, attracted by the noise of the dog. Nick instantly springs to action, quickly moving back toward Madison and Alicia, who are standing by the back door still. Okay, the Trans have a gun. Shotgun. I tried to steal it once. Opting not to unpack that, Madison follows Nick, trusting his instincts.
Alicia, stay close. Don't stop.
They rush out into their fenced backyard, and Nick hops onto a huge pile of bags of soil for their garden, giving him access to the backyard of the neighbor's home right behind them. Here, come on.
Okay.
They enter the maze that is the Tran's fenced-in traditional Vietnamese garden in their backyard. It's roofed in places by some net, and in other places just by more wood, allowing sunlight to get through. Pots hang throughout the labyrinthine garden. Following Nick's lead, they make it through easily, leaving pots swinging around behind them, and Nick leads them to the front door, where he pulls up the doormat and grabs their spare key, then holds it up to Madison and Alicia and smiles proudly.
Nick!
He unlocks the door, opens it, and peeks into their home. The back door opens into their picturesque kitchen. It's completely dark and silent in the house.
Susan? Patrick?
Okay, they're not here.
Okay.
When they're all inside, the lights all turn on.
Susan?
Nick and Madison wander through the house until they come upon a small study, and Nick, recognizing that he's in the right place, begins rummaging through a cabinet. Elsewhere in the house, Alicia is slowly walking through a hallway, looking at pictures hanging on the walls. Then, just as suddenly as it came on, the power goes out again. Nick hastens his search and manages to find the shotgun wrapped in some fabric behind a bookshelf. I got it! He turns, swinging the gun around haphazardly.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, we need shells. Grab that.
Alright.
She grabs the box of shells from the top shelf of the closet and goes back to Nick, who has unwrapped the gun and is admiring it.
Whoa, careful. Give it to me.
Okay. Is there any more? As Nick looks through the nearly empty shell box, they hear the barking start up again, and in the living room, Alicia peers through a window, pushing the curtain to the side. Back at their house, she sees the dog barking at Peter as he stumbles into their house through the back door that they had just left from.
Mom? Mom?
Hearing this, Madison rushes out of the room, and Nick follows, carrying a couple boxes of shells. They both enter the living room.
There's someone inside our house. What?
Here, Mom, here. Mom, move it! Nick dumps the shells out onto the coffee table and rushes over to her. Load it!
Alicia, watch out. Stand back. Careful.
Nick loads the gun as she holds it. Then they all look through the window and into their home, where Peter is following the dog around as it runs in circles until they both wander out of sight, and only a sad sound is heard.
Mom? Shh. Okay, we just stay here. Just stay here.
Immediately after she makes this decision, she sees two headlights pulling up to their house.
No. No. It's Travis. No. Oh my god.
Might not be him.
It's him. Here, take this.
She hands Nick the shotgun. Then the three of them rush out of the Tran's house and back through their garden.
Travis!
Just moments earlier, Travis enters the house alone, slowly and quietly. There's no sign of his family being home. Madison? Maddie! He takes a few steps inside when he suddenly hears footsteps behind him. He turns and sees Liza and Chris coming inside. I asked you to wait in the car.
We're staying with you.
Looks like no one's here, Dad. Car's still in the driveway. They've gotta be here. In the Tran's backyard, Nick directs Madison and Alicia through the maze of fencing as Madison runs ahead. Left.
Travis.
Left. Okay, right.
Travis!
Left. Travis, Liza, and Chris slowly move through the house until they find the room that the back door leads into. The door is slid open and Peter's on the ground, bent over and making horrible noises. Dad. Chris, get back. They both stand back as Travis approaches Peter, who makes no indication of noticing him. As soon as Travis stops walking and stands a few steps away from Peter, the lights flash back on and the scene is once again illuminated. They're all horrified by what they see. Peter's hunched over, eating the Cruz's dog. Liza, get Chris to the car right now. At that, Peter hears him and looks away from his meal, then starts to stand up. Travis stays where he is. Get out of here, I'll handle it. The familiar empty eyes confirm that he's now among the ranks of the undead. Peter stares at Travis for a moment, opening and closing his mouth hungrily. He begins moving toward Travis, who slowly takes small steps back and holds his arms out. Pete, hey man, you're sick.
Dad!
Pete, come on.
Dad,
Pete,
what are you
hey,
doing?
It's Travis. Get out of here. Peter finally overpowers Travis and knocks him onto the ground. Chris heroically dives towards Peter to save his father.
Dad!
No!
Just outside, Madison hops the fence, with Nick and Alicia close behind.
Travis? Travis! Give me the gun.
The shells! Where are the extra shells? Alicia stares at him blankly, shaking her head. Alright, leave it, let's go! Nick follows Madison, but Alicia makes the split-second decision to turn back and return for the extra shells. Inside, Travis, with some leverage now, pushes Peter off of him. Then they both stand up, and Travis pushes him against the wall. At this angle, though, Peter almost has enough mobility to bite Travis on the arm. Alicia sprints back into the Tran's house, looking around cautiously, then heads back into the living room through the same path she got there the first time. She finds the box of shells knocked over on the ground and scoops them back up. As her head raises back above the table, she sees an empty pill bottle knocked over next to an empty cup of tea. She then crawls around the table and her theory is confirmed when she sees a pair of slippered feet push open the door to this room. She rushes into a nearby bathroom, trying to avoid being seen. Back home, Travis pushes Peter against the glass door just as Madison and Nick come back inside with the gun. Pete, stop!
Travis!
No! Put the gun down! Madison moves to a spot where she can take the shot, but hesitates when Travis says this. When she fails to shoot, Daniel barges in from out of nowhere and takes the gun from her, then looks at Travis.
Move.
The instant Travis moved out of the way, Daniel fired the gun straight at Pete's face with no hesitation. Everyone turns away at first, unwilling to watch a man be killed. Peter turns around and goes silent for a moment, but he doesn't fall over. They all look back, confused. Instead, he looks back at Daniel and almost everyone sees the most grisly thing they've seen in their lives. The right 2/3 of Peter's face have been blasted off, with only the left third remaining even remotely face-like. Even Daniel, who so confidently shot him the first time, stares for a moment. However, Daniel does not hesitate long, as he cocks the gun and takes a few steps until the gun is touching Peter's forehead. Then, he takes the kill shot. Everyone is horrified once more. The now lifeless body, missing the entire top of its head, falls to the ground limply, and Daniel nods, hands the gun to Madison, who's in shock, and walks out of the room. Nick, who is standing outside, casually moves his flashlight over the dead man and dog, makes a face indicating only casual disgust, and steps over them carefully. Chris retches, then runs outside to vomit. Madison, Travis, Nick, and Liza all stand silently for a moment. What did you do? Meanwhile, Alicia sprints through the Tran's garden, having fled through the bathroom window. This time, however, whether because of fear or lack of directions, she cannot find her way back through the maze so easily. When she realizes she's lost, she stops running and takes a moment, listening to the sounds of the night. She looks around once more, then proceeds in the direction she figures is the way out. As she runs, however, she's grabbed by a pair of hands through the other side of the fence to her left. An older Asian woman has grabbed her by the hair and is snarling at her ravenously. Alicia tears free of her grip and continues through the maze until she gets back to the fence. As she's climbing up, however, the woman grabs her foot and pulls her once again.
Help!
Everyone inside rushes to her aid after a moment of confusion. Chris, who was outside vomiting moments earlier, rushes over to the fence and tries to grab her and help her over. Alicia, give me your hand!
Get off me!
Just give me your hand!
No!
She then kicks the woman in the face, freeing herself, and Chris grabs her around the waist as she falls onto him. She reacts aggressively.
Just get the fuck off me! Yow!
She elbows Chris in the nose and he lets go. Alicia gets up and walks over to Madison. Chris!
God, what happened?
I was trying to save you, Alicia!
You okay?
Chris, calm down. Dad, you calm down!
Chris!
Chris pushes Travis away and storms off into the house, passing by Nick, who turns and watches for a moment, then looks at Travis, who shakes his head. Then they all turn their glances toward the fence, where the woman stands growling and weakly reaching her hand out through a gap.
What's wrong with Susu? Susan. Oh my god.
Madison walks up to the fence and gets a closer look at Susan.
Susan.
She's sick.
Was she bitten?
I can't tell.
She's not sick. Everyone turns and stares at Nick, who's standing back. She's dead. The tension in the air is palpable. Travis glares angrily at Nick, then looks back over to Alicia, who's running through everything that's happened in the past few days with this information in mind. Then she starts shaking her head in denial and looks at Susan.
Well, that's not Matt. He's not like that.
Nobody will respond. They all just look at her sadly, and she begins to break down.
He's not like that. Mom, Matt's not like that. That's not him. That's not Matt.
As Madison holds Alicia, who's just crying now, Travis angrily approaches Nick. Why would you say that? 'Cause it's the truth. Travis stares at Nick for a few seconds in disbelief. Then they all just look at the gap in the fence as Susan reaches toward them helplessly. The four of them remain outside for several more minutes, listening to the horrible sounds of this night. In one of the bathrooms in the Clark's house, Chris is looking at his nose in the mirror. It's no longer bleeding, but it may have been broken. Travis cracks the door open and peeks his head in before stepping inside. Hey, let me see. Mom can fix it. Come on. You know how many times I've had my nose broken? Yeah? Mom can fix it. Travis places his hand on Chris's shoulder. Chris looks at him somewhat angrily. Come on, just let me help. Chris takes a deep breath and nods, then turns around to let Travis take a look. Travis takes a damp washcloth and begins wiping the blood off of Chris's face. Ow! Yeah. Alright, hold on. Travis places his index and middle fingers of each hand on either side of Chris's nose, and he holds onto his father's wrist. Travis pushes the bridge of his nose a few times and nothing happens. As the lights flicker back on, Travis grins and finishes his examination. Yep, I don't think it's broken. Travis continues smiling as he looks at his son's face. He seems much more like the 16-year-old kid he really is now than when he was angry earlier. He speaks softly now. What was wrong with that man, Dad? And that woman? Travis hesitates as he starts wiping the last of the blood away. People are getting sick. Will we? You're gonna be alright. We all will be, okay? Chris stares silently and then nods. Travis puts his hand on Chris's shoulder once more and leads him out. Come on, we gotta talk to everyone. The two walk into the living room, where the rest of the group has gathered. On the couch, Griselda is lying with her foot elevated as Liza, Daniel, and Ofelia tend to her. Madison sits nearby with her arm around Alicia, who is still disturbed from her experience in the yard. Nick stands closer to the front door, away from the seating, leaning against the wall. Travis pats Chris on the back and indicates for him to sit down in an armchair.
Got anything I can give her for the pain?
Nothing stronger than aspirin. Liza makes eye contact with Nick, who looks away awkwardly. Liza leaves the room and Travis turns to Daniel. The phone's in the kitchen, if you want to make that call.
I did. My cousin is coming to pick us up in the morning.
Ofelia looks up at Daniel for a moment, confused. Then down at her mother, who motions with her head as if to say, don't worry about it. Travis then looks to her. We'll set your mom up in one of the bedrooms, okay?
Thank you.
Aren't we leaving?
Yeah, we will. In the morning.
No, Travis, we have to go. We're packed, we're ready, we were just waiting for you.
Can we talk about this in the kitchen?
No.
She stands up and gets in his face, speaking softly.
This thing's getting worse, not better. It's not safe.
Madison, I think Travis is...
No, it's not. I don't want to stay. It's not your place. I want to go.
Look.
I want to go. I don't
hold
want to
on.
stay here.
Alicia runs out of the room. Hold on. It is dark. We don't even know if the freeway is passable.
You expect us to wait here?
We'll be blind out there. It's dangerous.
And this isn't?
Inside, doors locked. We'll ride it out for the night, okay? We'll take care of each other, right? Trust me, Maddie, we will leave in the morning.
If we're staying here, you have to take care of Peter.
She storms off, leaving Travis looking very uncomfortable at that prospect. Then he walks off to the back room. A few minutes later, we see Travis struggling to pull a rolled-up rug out the back door and into the yard. as he takes a break from a particularly strenuous tug. He's surprised by a voice coming from as if out of nowhere.
You can get gas from the truck.
Daniel steps out from around the side of the house. For what?
To burn him?
No.
If you burn him, the sickness will not spread.
We don't know how it spreads. Urgh. Daniel stands silently for a few seconds as Travis continues pulling, then nods knowingly.
I understand. You knew this man.
Yeah, I did. And he didn't deserve this. Travis gives Daniel a pointed look before continuing to pull the body across the ground. Daniel doesn't respond at all and simply turns and walks back into the house. Later, Travis comes inside through a side door after finishing his task. Liza's in the kitchen nearby washing some dishes, presumably in an effort to distract herself. As Travis walks in, she looks up at him.
It's true what you said. They don't die, they just keep coming back.
He silently comes over to the second side of the sink and starts washing his hands, then looks over at her.
What?
It's good what you're doing. Helping that woman, Griselda?
Not helping her.
Yes, you are, Liza. Give yourself a break.
I gave myself a break, Travis. A long break, and it turns out I can do a lot more things than I thought I could. A lot more things than you thought I could.
I know. I always knew it. She looks up at him and grins, then shakes her head.
No, you always said it. If I had 7 years now, I could go to med school, be a doctor. And it's too bad because that's what she really needs. Forget the fractures, the lacerations, the contusions. When the foot was crushed, the tissue began to die, and it will die. The infection will poison her blood, and her organs will fail.
It won't come to that.
Oh yeah? Who's gonna stop it? You? Can't fix everything, Travis.
He looks at the sink, remembering the last time he heard that. Fixing the plumbing seemed like a monumental task at that time, but saving Griselda would certainly prove to be a whole new level of challenge. Well, you know what? I'm relieved. I thought it was going to be awkward having 2 wives in the house. He grins and walks away. In a bedroom, Griselda lies uncomfortably while Ofelia puts a pillow under her foot to keep it elevated. As Daniel walks in, she begins to demand answers.
What's happening? What is this?
Something to survive.
Okay, so we should go with them tomorrow then, right?
No.
We don't know what's happening. We can't handle this on our own.
I can handle it.
Papa, we need help. They can help us.
This is the wrong time to be in someone else's debt. They're not family.
Family? Like your cousin.
Oye.
Hija, por favor, vete a dormir.
Inclúyeme, por favor.
They all stop, and Ofelia sits on the bed to address them in Spanish.
Usted me dijo que nuestra familia está sepultada en El Salvador.
Tu mamá necesita ayuda.
Sí.
Esta casa es perfecta para descansar.
Papá, debemos ir con ellos.
Hija, confía en tu papá. Confía.
She gets up and walks out of the room.
It was your idea not to teach her Spanish.
In Madison and Travis's bedroom, Madison stares out the window at Susan reaching aimlessly through the fence gap. She's holding the oxy she got for Nick. Travis enters behind her. Hey, Angel. Where'd you get the pills?
I went back to the school. Cops hadn't cleared out the locker.
Smart.
I'm gonna take enough to get Nick set in the desert, then give the rest to that woman.
Griselda. Good. Hey, I had to bring them.
Of course. She was hurt.
It's not just that. They took us in, Maddie. I'm sorry about what Daniel did.
He had to.
He doesn't seem convinced, but she hugs him and he forgets it.
I thought I lost you.
No. You didn't lose me. You're never gonna lose me. I won't leave you again. Later, Madison leans against a wall next to the side door, staring out the window into the backyard. Liza's walking through the house, unable to sleep, when she sees her and approaches.
Who can sleep, right? Look, I don't want to cause problems. Madison, I know we're not friends. I'm saying this to you as a mother. We should support each other, you and me. The kids need it. They need reassurance right now, and
I need something from you. That woman outside, that's Susan. She watched my kids when I went to work. Took care of me after my husband died.
Sounds like a good friend.
She was. And if I ever end up like her, I need you to take care of it.
Liza tilts her head and looks at her like she's crazy.
Don't make Travis do it. It would break him.
Liza uncomfortably and silently nods, then goes back into the kitchen to get her glass of water and goes back to bed. Madison remains, watching Susan reach out feebly towards her, even later into the night. Finally, the morning comes. Only 3 days have passed since Nick first encountered an undead Gloria in the church, yet it has felt like a decade. Outside in the yard, Travis is digging a hole. Behind him, Susan reaches out toward him and lets out a very long growl. Morning, Susan. He turns and ignores her, continuing to dig. A little bit later, he has successfully buried Peter and the dog, and he's put the rug he wrapped them up with into their big trash can, and is now rolling it out onto the curb. In the light of day, the neighborhood doesn't feel all that different, just eerily quieter. He cannot fit the whole rug in, but he makes sure the bloody parts are obscured. He looks down the block and sees a large man with a mustache is also bringing his trash to the curb. Certainly he heard the commotion last night, but they just look at each other for a second before both of them go back into their homes. Inside, Daniel and Chris are sitting at the table, and Daniel's explaining to Chris how the shotgun and its ammo work.
These barrels have a cylinder. Bore choke for a wider spread of the ammo. This is the brake.
Okay.
You load here.
Madison walks over and pours Daniel some more coffee, but doesn't interrupt the lesson.
Thank you. These are number 8 birdshot. These are double lock buck. Those will stop something.
Okay. Chris smiles, and Daniel hands him the gun. He looks at it with amazement and holds it up to his shoulder, looking down the barrel just as Travis walks in.
Feeling better?
The hell are you doing? He's just showing me the gun, Dad. Finish packing the truck, Chris. It's really not a big deal. Chris, go. He stares off into space, annoyed, then takes a deep breath and hands the gun back to Daniel, and they share a small grin. Madison comes back and stands in the doorway as Chris leaves. She, Daniel, and Travis have a tense, silent moment before Daniel breaks it.
The more the boy knows, the safer he'll be.
Uh-huh.
I didn't see the harm, Trav.
He looks over at her like she's crazy. You know how I feel about guns. She nods and looks around the room.
The gun doesn't care how you feel about it.
That's enough. We ready to go?
Cars are loaded, yeah.
Travis looks back at Daniel one more time before walking out.
I have one more thing to do.
A minute later, we see Madison standing outside, standing dangerously close to the fence as Susan reaches for her. They stare at each other, and we then see the hammer in her hand.
Susan.
Travis comes outside through the side door, wondering what's holding her up. He sees the hammer and puts down the toolbox he's carrying and rushes over to her. Maddie.
I was wondering where her husband is. Wondering what it'd have been like if you'd come home last night. Found me like this. When he comes home and finds her.
Yeah, but I didn't find you like that.
You think Patrick's dead already? You think he left and never came home?
I don't know. Daniel looks out a window into the backyard, hoping to see Madison will do what he thinks is right.
What is she?
Susan. She's your friend.
All the more reason.
She grips the hammer more confidently now.
She's dead.
We don't know that.
I do.
No, we don't know anything yet. What if there's even the smallest chance that she can be helped? It's just not your call. He slowly reaches down to take the hammer, but she moves it away before he can grab it. Give it to me, before you do something that can't be undone. Madison. Finally, she relents, giving him the hammer and walking off toward the car. From inside, Daniel delivers his judgment.
Weak.
In the driveway, Madison finishes packing things into her car's trunk, while Liza and Chris pack their things into the bed of Travis's truck. Madison closes the trunk, then goes over and sits in the driver's seat in silence for a few seconds, only to hear that she's not alone as a voice comes from the back seat. Whew, I need a couple more. Mom. She ignores him, staring off into the distance for a few seconds, then adjusts the rearview mirror and looks back at him through that. Then she takes the evidence bag that once contained the pill bottle out of her bag. It now only has a dozen or so pills in it. She hands 2 to Nick. Is that all we have?
Yep, I gave the rest to Griselda.
He looks at her in disbelief. Why?
She needs it.
Mom, she's a stranger.
She's in pain.
So am I. He sits back sadly and looks out the window. Madison turns and looks at him now.
I know. I'm gonna help.
I don't need you, Mom. I need my medicine. They both look away from each other, not wanting to go any further than that. Back in the bedroom Griselda is staying in, we see her in the middle of praying the rosary when Daniel comes in high spirits. Ofelia stands by the window, looking out as the others get ready to leave.
Hola, mi amor. ¿Cómo estás?
Cansada, me duele.
¿Poquita agua?
Sí.
They're leaving.
Good.
This is insane. Papa, we have to go with them.
No.
Tell me what you're afraid of.
Nothing.
He smiles, then hands Griselda the cup of water.
You're being stubborn, paranoid. You're hurting Mama.
I am protecting you and her.
She needs the nurse. I know Travis will let us go with him if we ask.
Once they are gone, I will go out, get a doctor. He will come and treat your mother.
How? Where are you gonna find a doctor?
Your father and I have been in more difficult situations. Y estamos vivos.
Mamá, esas son buenas personas.
Good people are the first ones to die.
Outside, everyone is ready to go, but Alicia isn't outside yet. Travis is impatiently waiting for her. Alicia! Come on, we're going! He walks up to the house just in time for her to come outside. Alicia, come on!
I heard you.
He opens the door of Madison's car for her. Let's go, huh?
I had to pee.
He goes back to his truck and gets in. He backs out of the driveway and starts heading down the road, with Madison following behind him in her car. Alicia glances out the window as they pass the Cruz's yard, where the bounce house is deflated and covered with blood. They drive down the road as a small caravan, while another helicopter flies past overhead. As they pull out of their neighborhood and onto a larger road, Madison looks out her window and sees Patrick Tran getting out of his car, back from his trip.
Patrick, wait!
She turns the wheel and drives back to the front of the Tran's house. Travis looks out his back window and sees this, not understanding. The next thing we see is the Tran's backyard, this time in the daylight. Patrick comes out of the back door that the Clarks were using as an entrance last night. Susan, I'm home! As the helicopters fly overhead, Patrick walks towards the fenced maze that Susan is in, only catching a glimpse of her as she navigates her way toward him. Airport was shut down. I drove all the way from Salt Lake. I tried to call you, but... Then he sees her. He's devastated but unsure of what he's seeing. He concernedly takes another step toward her as she limps his way. Susan? Madison runs into the backyard from the fence gate.
Patrick!
He looks over at Madison, but he's in shock at seeing his wife in this state.
Don't touch her. That's not your wife.
What happened, Susan? Alicia follows Madison into the yard and stops and stares, mouth agape when she sees what's happening. The rest of the group rushes in just behind her. Patrick reaches down to hug his wife, and she's inches away from biting his shoulder when... She's shot in the head by a flurry of bullets. Go. In from the gate on the other side of the front of the house come a handful of soldiers, who are reinforced by another group of soldiers coming in from the gate the others are standing at. Someone check that. Patrick falls to the ground, crying and holding his wife's body in his arms as the soldiers storm his backyard. They're all in shock, but Madison, Nick, and Alicia look horrified to have seen this happen to someone they love.
How should we proceed?
Patrick continues sobbing as two soldiers pull him away from Susan,
move out.
and the others are all grabbed by a pair of soldiers each and pulled out of the yard. We now see the street outside of Madison's house. There are a half-dozen huge, sandy-colored armored trucks parked along the street, and 2 helicopters hover nearby. In their yard, a soldier interviews Travis and Madison, while another soldier stands nearby.
Good morning. I'm Corporal Phillips, and this is my partner, Corporal Cole. We're working on a census here in Safe Zone, India, and our squad has been assigned to your home. Can I ask for your name, sir?
Travis Monroe.
And this is your residence?
Yeah, my girlfriend's house.
And what's your name, ma'am?
Madison. Clark.
How many occupants?
6, 7, 9? 9 altogether.
Big family.
Names, please. I got Travis Manawa and Madison Clark.
Nicholas Clark, Alicia Clark. Madison sees 2 soldiers walking into their backyard and abruptly walks away, distracting Travis briefly. Elizabeth Ortiz, Christopher Manoa, then there's Daniel Salazar, Griselda Salazar, and Ofelia Salazar.
Okay, make sure that everyone in your house stays inside.
In the backyard, the 2 soldiers are looking around, and Madison approaches them. One of them sees her and motions to the other, and they turn to face her, the first guardsman doing so in an oddly confrontational way, pointing his gun at her for a few seconds, waiting for her to speak.
Can you tell me where you took my neighbor, Patrick Tran?
The aggressive soldier, whose uniform tag reads Castro, speaks first.
Your neighbor was covered in the infected's blood.
That was his wife's blood.
That wasn't his wife anymore.
The other soldier angrily glares at his partner. His tag reads Richards.
Hey, back off, man.
Is it contagious? The blood? Is that how it happens?
We're really not sure. Sorry, ma'am. He is being safely quarantined.
Richards, shut the fuck up, man. That's classified. Have you or anyone else in this house been exposed?
No.
Castro looks suspicious, especially when he turns back and sees the recently dug grave from this morning.
What's that?
Our dog died.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Outside of a house elsewhere in the neighborhood, Nick is snooping around, looking at the bars and the windows. He looks around the corner of the house and onto the street, and he sees several soldiers coming down the street, so he hides, flat up against the house, until they pass. He then goes around to the back of the house and begins using a screwdriver to remove the bars from a window. As he does so, he looks behind him and realizes that in the house behind this one, a little girl holding a doll is looking out the window of her room, watching him. He freezes for a moment, but when she uses the doll's arm to wave at him, he awkwardly waves back, then goes back around the other side of the house and out the front gate, where he sees an airplane fly across the sky, rapidly turning to change direction. Outside the Clark's house, Madison, Travis, Alicia, Liza, and Chris stand outside watching the National Guard march throughout their neighborhood and into the houses of their neighbors. A soldier spray paints a symbol on the wall next to their door. All but Madison seem optimistic. It's gonna get better now. The cavalry's arrived. Inside, Daniel watches the occupation, barely cracking open the blinds. He turns away and looks towards Griselda, shaking his head.
It is already too late.
This has been Fear the Walking Dead, the radio drama. Today's episode was sourced from Season 1, Episode 3, The Dog, which was directed by Adam Davidson and written by Jack Lagudice. This production was brought to you by Parker, director, editor, and writer, and Tate, assistant director, casting director, enforcer, and thumbnail artist. This episode starred Parker as the narrator, Nick, Travis, and Chris, Tate as Madison, Alicia, and Daniel, Lena as Liza, Hope as Ofelia, and Melisa as Griselda. Our supporting cast from this episode includes Parker as Patrick Tran and Corporal Richards, Luke as Radio Man and Sergeant Castro, Knox as Corporal Cole, Rioter 3, and Officer, Rick as Corporal Phillips and Rioter 1, Woflix as Rioter 2, and Catherine as Rioter 4. Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the series so far, leave a like and a comment, and make sure to subscribe to hear the next episode. Also, check out our Discord link in the description to come chat with us or even to join the cast of the radio drama yourself. We moved during the production of this episode, which caused some loss of momentum and delays, but I'm glad to finally be out on the other side. We're full steam ahead here as we move into the back half of the season, and the story's really starting to shift. I can't wait for you all to hear as we fully explore the National Guard intervention. It's a fun side of the Walking Dead universe that this show explored for the first time, and it's one of the best parts of Fear, exploring situations in the early apocalypse that are totally different to what we saw in The Walking Dead. And as you'll come to see, we've really put our own twist on this part of the story. Thanks again, and tune in next time for episode 4, Not Fade Away.